Well, we never rest here at Ham Radio Deluxe. There's lots going on, and I've got some pro tips. Let's talk about it in today's Ham Radio Deluxe video newsletter. I'm Mike, Whiskey Alpha 9, Papa India Echo with Ham Radio Deluxe. If you find this video useful, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell. Okay, so there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of discussions on certain online forums and things, and a lot of it's not accurate. So I wanted to kind of get on here and talk to a lot of you directly and help you kind of understand where we're coming from lately. And so I'm going to just I've got a deck prepared, but it's really just the outline of what I want to get through today. But this is a holiday update, so happy holidays and season greetings. Happy Boxing Day. First off, thanks for your patience. There's been a lot of some people. It's funny because 90% of our customers have said this is great. The 6.9 release is great, no problems. It works better than any version before. This is dramatic, improvements and so on. And there's 10% that have had, one challenge or another. I'm going to talk about that here in a few minutes. And most of those situations are really rather unique to their particular situation or installation or station. Some aren't, but I'll get onto that here in a few minutes. As the trailer mentions, subscribe to the channel, but I'm just going to take a moment to say, please subscribe to the channel. A lot of folks don't want email and so on. So if you don't want email, subscribing to the channel is how you're going to be able to know whether or not there have been something new published about Ham Radio Deluxe, and we'll talk about it here on the YouTube channel. So please do just click the subscribe button in the message down below, and that'll help. Also, if you click the notification bell, it'll tell you when new videos have been released. Last thing is, don't believe everything you hear. I had a customer, I'm not going to call him out by name because I love all my customers, and but it's interesting what happened because someone said, "Hey, your 6.9 version no longer imports my log from the SKCC logger." So Ferry gave him the right answer, and then I figured, that was the right answer. So he's not going to accept the right answer from me if I just tell him what Ferry said. So I actually did a side-by-side comparison of version 6.8 to version 6.9. And turns out in version 6.8, not all of the fields from the SKCC log are imported. And in version 6.9, all of the ADI fields actually do import. There was an issue with an application-specific field, which we don't import, but that's always been the case. But so anyway, that was one of those cases where someone could have easily gone out and said, well, the old version did this, and the new version no longer does. And in most cases, that's not true. So just be aware. There's all kinds of points of view out there about things, and it's not all accurate. So. For the real story, just come to me or come to the team, and we'll tell you what's going on. So when we publish a release, sometimes we hear someone saying, "This release didn't fix the problem I reported," or "What's the status of the problem I reported?" And this is a really important thing that I want everybody to understand, because there's two approaches to this, and even in the almost 40 years of software development projects that I've managed, for large corporations, it's always been these two different points of view. One is that we'll hold off any release until 100% of all known issues are solved. The problem with that, it's kind of like the 6.9 release in of itself, which was That took 3 years to rewrite. And I think a lot of people probably thought, well, it isn't really a rewrite, But yeah, I mean, that's why you're noticing that some things with dates or some things with fields or whatever have changed. And it's a rewrite. So, but the point here is that there's no software on the planet that has no defects. All software does. Even Microsoft software does. And if they took the approach that we're holding off any release until 100% of the known issues have been solved, it's just going to go on forever. And no one will get fixes to things until everybody gets the fix they were looking for, and that's just not practical. So approach number 2 is we release these maintenance releases periodically when what has been built is better than what's been released. And that's basically what we're going to do. The way to think about this is, and we've got 28 beta testers, and they're not all active all the time. They're volunteers, and we love them. They do a great job, but they're in and out in cases, and that's fine. But before I send out a release, I ask them and my tech support team, I say, well, is the beta release or the beta build that we're working on right now, is it substantially better than the version that's been published? Is it better? And if I get a yes to that, then I'm going to release it. The tech support team knows this stuff pretty well because they're taking calls and questions from customers, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. But if the current beta version is better than the current published version, we're going to release it, and that may be a week or two or whatever, or it may be a little bit shorter or longer. But as soon as we get certain things done, we're going to release software. That doesn't mean that whatever item you've reported isn't important, we capture it all, and we're going to get to all of it. There's not a lot in the backlog right now, and I'll talk about that in a minute too. Maybe even in this slide right here, actually. So since the initial release of 6.9 in late October, by the way, on Christmas Eve, I got the flu. That was 48 hours ago. And I've never had the flu in my life, so I'm trying to. Every time I put this video together, I'm thinking, I'm going to do this tonight. I'm going to get through this, and then something happens. And most recently, I just got the flu, and I couldn't hold my head up. So, pardon me if I sound, sniffly, because I am. But anyway, we have moved 188 items through the process during the release period, being those things since the initial release. Much of it, I would say, probably 80% of it is really rather unique to certain installations because we can't reproduce it. Just to be real clear, when I asked the team if the beta release is better than the published release, they're not going to tell me it is if there's still things crashing or if there's still things that fundamentally don't work. You've got something as many as 28 people saying, yes, this is better than what you've got published. Let's get it out. And we're not releasing things that's known to have big major problems. But it gets into the hands of a few people, and you find a couple things that are, need to be addressed. And in some cases, we get on their machine specifically and try to sort it out. And so we do. But anyway, so we've had 145 items resolved in 6 maintenance releases. I just updated these numbers before the video started, so I think the 188 might be a short a couple too since we started, but that's okay. What's currently in development, though, is 47 items. And of those 47 items, 19 of them have been resolved, or the developers marked them resolved. And it's waiting for validation from the beta team. 21 items remain. And then there's another 7 that are in what's called feedback status. So either the developer or I or somebody in the process wasn't clear on what the report was, or what the point was, or what the so there's some questions about some things, because honestly, and I said this probably in a Facebook post recently, you've all been conditioned to believe that everything that doesn't work the way you think it should work is a bug, and that's just not the case. So we get bugs every now and then, bug entries where people say, hey, these fields should be imported, like I said a while ago, and it's not a bug at all, and it's just it's the way it works. But anyway, the top priorities right now, though, among those 21 items, there's some duplication in there, or variants of the same topics in a couple cases, but there's a few people who have this satellite tracking crash thing going on. I don't. I could launch it right now and I could run it. I don't have any problem. I'm connected. I've got a IC 9700. Right now I'm connected to a Flex, and that's why you're seeing decodes come in HRD alert there. There's a few people who are having problems with satellite tracking crashing, and we're going to have to get on their computers and try to sort it out, because we can't reproduce it. So there's that. There's speed. We're always trying to figure out how to make things faster and more responsive to perform better. And I've got some pro tips here in a minute that I'll share with folks on how to do that at some level. Somehow the V7CC or the CC cluster stuff stopped working. So those are probably the three most critical things on the list, with 19 items awaiting verification. So it's possible to go back to a previous point. These three items down here under top priorities are among the 21. They're not part of the 19. But if the 19 are good, and it makes life better for, let's say 19 people, we'll release it, and then we'll keep working on the stuff that's there. I think what you're seeing, though, is that we've moved away from a point in time where it's taking years to get a release out, to where it's, we've had, 6 releases in 60 days, so about one every 10 days. And we'll keep doing that until there's nothing left to do. And believe me, the developers want to move on to rig control. Aside from people reporting software problems, there's a few recurrent things that come up. And the first thing is that someone has changed a call sign, or someone has activation issues or whatever. These probably take up, I don't know, maybe as much as 80% of the inbound calls. The take-up rate on version 6.9 has been heavy, with tens of thousands of downloads. And so there are people now who haven't been on Ham Radio Deluxe for quite some time that they want to get back on it. After all, they've paid for it. And so they might as well, jump in there and get going with 6.9. But they can't find their key, or they can't, they've changed their email address and so on. So let me real quickly, I'm going to do this a couple times during this video, but let me pull up our support page here real quick. Okay, so if you go to support.hamradiodeluxe.com, you'll land on this page. You can log in here and create a support request. You can also go here and you can put in activation key. And there's one here that says, how do I get my activation key? So, that alone is accounts for probably 40% of our inbound tickets. People wanting to know, how do I get my activation key? It's in here. If I come up here, I put in email address changed. And here's one that says my call sign or email address has changed. Go here, and it gives you the step-by-step instructions on how to change your email address or your call sign. If I put in deactivating keys, here's something on deactivating keys. So these three questions really are among the most prevalent questions we get asked, and all the answers are right there. I've seen people go onto Facebook and they post a message there on one of these topics, and it pains me to see that because they actually have to wait for someone to give them an answer, and it might not be accurate. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I did this, but if I put in WSJT, which is one of the other questions, is how to use WSJT with Ham Radio Deluxe, and this hasn't changed in version 6.9. It's the same, but this shows you how to make the settings changes in WSJTX, shows you what to change in Ham Radio Deluxe. There's also another one here, and you can see them off to the right side here, so you can go to automatic logging, and there's a video there that's on our YouTube channel. You just play it from there, and that will show you how to set up automatic logging. So, I highly recommend going here. If you log in, you can create a ticket, and then I'll show you that probably here in a moment. But those are with regards to having a backlog of tickets to go through, if folks would use the support site, it would surely help us get through a lot of the backlog, and we'll get you your answers a lot quicker. So the support team says, here's some things that I think you should tell customers. So this comes from Ferry and Kevin. So the number one item is avoid creating multiple tickets in the support queue for the same topic. So also know that if you call the number, you're going to land in the sales support queue, not the tech support queue. I've talked about the reasons for that in the past. I won't go back through them again, but the salespeople have to eventually get to your voicemail, and then they move it over into the support queue. Just your best bet, like I showed a while ago, is to go onto the support portal and log in there. You can see all of your previous support requests. You can see the answers to the ones you've got. I think a lot of people, and you can send an email. It does pretty much the same thing, but there's some people who would say, I can't find your replies or whatever. If you do it straight from the portal, you won't miss our replies. You won't be generating multiple tickets on the same point, and so on. So occasionally I have to go in and combine the duplicates. So if you put in the same question 2 or 3 times, I combine them all into one and leave it with the oldest date, because that's establishing your spot in the queue. The second one is reply to the ticket with your registered email address. What happens is that our systems recognize you by your email address, not your call sign or your name or anything. So when you email us from the email address that your order was made from and your keys associated to, then the systems recognize you as a customer and makes things flow a lot more quickly. Otherwise, someone has to sort out why, someone with, a different email address is trying to get support and they don't even have a key listed to that email address. So I showed how to change email addresses. I showed how to deactivate, or where to find the information about deactivating, call sign lookup order, and the tester. So here, this is interesting. Let me show you this. Under Tools, Configure, Call Sign Lookup. First of all, the things that are here on the left-hand side are the enabled methods. This is the order in which the lookup methods are searched when you have a call that you're entering. The UCSDBs, or the unique call sign databases, are pinned to the top, and the country list is pinned to the bottom. Think of it this way. The country list is the source of last resort. We don't really want to use that unless we come up, empty from the previous ones, which really doesn't happen very often. In the public and private, these are where I manage the public one, you would manage the private one, but if you happen to know a particular call sign belongs to a different country than what the prefix would look like, then you can put them in there. Then you have the ability in here to move these around, and I usually have QRZ subscription above logbook. There are others who would say they have their logbook above QRZ or the other lookup sources. The reason why I do it this way is because someone could change I've moved 6 times in the last 10 years. So you could change your QTH, and then if you had the logbook up top, then you're going to be using old location information. So anyway, if you go over here to the tester, this is really helpful if you want to figure out how the results got to be established. And so I'm just going to look up W1AW and click here. And then you can see up in the top part that these are all the lookup methods that you've selected. And the way each field works is that it's the first in wins. So if the QRZ basically, so you see the UCSDBs came up with nothing found. It's pretty normal. The distilled results basically contain whatever the first in wins kind of result is there. And this bottom piece is really, we call it kind of the abridged or the short lookup. This is what happens in the DX cluster. But that's the only place where that's used. So if you ever have any questions about how did this information get into the log, this is how you can test it. And you should find that probably pretty helpful. Then the tech support, that we have, know our product pretty well. Let's just say they're experts at Ham Radio Deluxe, but they're not experts at TQSL or WSJT or Grid Tracker or any of the other software out there. Sometimes they'll get to the point where, okay, and they'll help you with other things, but if they don't know, or if it's gotten beyond their expertise on some other third-party software, then they're a little bit limited there. So the point here is just understand there's only so much we can do with somebody else's software. We just need to make sure our own software works well. I said this a while ago, don't assume everything you can't figure out is a bug. Mostly they're not. I mean, if I go back a couple pages, I think whatever it was I said, there's 21 bugs, even right now in the queue. And even at that, there's some duplication there. So there's just not that many bugs in the software right now. There were some that will disagree with me on that, but I'm just telling you, this thing works pretty good. And the next thing is the support ticket process. So I showed this a while ago, but basically if you log in here, you'll be able to access your support options here. And so let me get logged in here. So you already have an account in the system if you're a customer, because once you purchase the software, you automatically get added into the system. You can create a ticket, view all tickets, same kind of search. But these are the options you get when you log in. Submit a ticket. It gives you a form to fill out your information on the ticket and so on. So do that. It lands in a queue where the team will be responding to you accordingly. And also if you want to look at status on previous tickets, I don't have any, but if you did, you would find them there. There's the forums in the community, and you can browse the articles. There's a knowledge base. The online manuals are here, the user guide. So all this stuff in here, highly recommend it. It's a fast and efficient way to get to the information that you need. So here's a couple pro tips, and I actually think this is well worth. If you watched this far into the video, thank you, but here's where things get kind of cool. Setting the selections to top 100 dramatically improves the speed. Well, one of the beta testers told me he had done that, and I thought, well, why would I really want to limit just the view to the last 100? He said, well, how long have you been a ham? I said, since 1974. He said, how often do you go back and look, at QSOs from 1974? Never. It's not that they're not in there, but the point is that if I'm viewing them all, then I've got 12,176 in here. If I just go to top 100 under selections, then things are a whole lot faster. There was a point that was made about someone, and I'm going to go ahead and call a station here on on FT8, 40 meters FT8. See if he'll answer me back. Getting things into the log, getting around in the logs a whole lot faster. If you have a large log, just to limit it down to 100. We'll see if he actually calls me back. Move this over and I can actually see what's happening here. Everybody else can. And what was next on the list? Oh, purging the call sign lookup cache. So in HRD alert, we actually do a lookup for all the calls that are spotted there, or decodes that come in, as it were. A second. Oh, there we go. So I worked this one, and so watch how fast I'm going to talk as this happens, because it goes immediately into the log, like poof. Very, very fast. Some people said, well, it takes 3 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever to add something into the log. That's just not really the case. Anyway, let's do some FT4. I'm going to go over to the FT4 frequency. Meanwhile, the call sign lookup cache, go to Configure, Call Sign Lookup, and click on Purge Call Sign Cache. We're going to do something to permanently change that. Here's an FT4 QSO that comes in. You can see it went straight in, nice and quick. We're going to change how this works, but in the short term, go and purge the call sign cache if you think you're having performance problems. Meanwhile, somebody else called me, so I'm answering them back. And see this one come through here in a second. And then the last item on the list was, here we go. So there's another FT4 one in the log. So the last one on the list. So to check your upload passwords, you would go to Tools, Configure, My Station. And now each call sign that you have, you can see here's my VK one. Some other kind of temporary ones are in there, but within this, you can have separate user IDs and passwords for these different services that you use. So, pretty cool stuff. The main thing is that with QRZ, every call has a separate API key for their log, so you want to be able to change it if you're flipping between calls and so on. So that's a little bit more convenient than having to go in and change it manually. So that's what we've got. Hopefully you found that informative. I'll try to do some videos again here, before we get too far into the new year. Look, there's not a lot wrong with version 6.9. I'm being honest and sincere here. There's a few things. We're working on them quickly, but there's nothing that would prevent people from using this version of Ham Radio Deluxe. It's significantly better than version 6.8, and we'll continue to improve it. We need people to use the software. That's how we find out if we need to do anything with it. I mean, beta testers can only test so much, and I know there's a lot of people who would say, well, I'm going to wait until I heard there were lots of problems with it, so I'm going to wait until the problems shake out of it. And well, if everybody did that, then there's no more software. So if everybody decided I'm not buying this software, I'm not doing renewals until I've heard that there are no problems with the software, then I'll just shut it down today, because it's not going to go anywhere. We need active participation from our customers. That's how we pay the developers and get the work done. So appreciate your support in that. And with that, 73 from Mike, Whiskey Alpha 9, Papa India Echo.